Hiya Stu, great to see the footage of you. Things look like they're doing well. Certainly looks a lot warmer there to practice than it is back at home at the minute. You're the envy of my assistants, that's for sure. Standing there on a range in the shorts with the skyscrapers in the distance. Just looking at your swing and relating it to the message that you sent me on Facebook. Certainly wouldn't worry too much about width during the backswing. You do maybe look like you're losing width at the top. For my money, you're not actually losing width, you're just not turning as far as you should. If we take a little look at it from down the line initially, pretty good lines on the way back, pretty much on plane at that point. You can see here, if I compare you with Justin Rose, I would say when viewed from down the line, biggest difference between you and Justin at this point would be the angle at which the hips are turning. You can see that your hips are staying quite level. His hips are turning on a slightly more tilted angle. Tailbone up a touch more at address than what we see with yourself. So you've got maybe an angle like this at address, and then as you go into your swing, the hip turn levels out a little bit too much. When viewed from face on, if we take you to the same position in the swing, I'm just going to concentrate on your hips at the moment. Your right hip is lower than the left, and when we look at, say, better ball strikers, players who don't necessarily lack width and get stuck underneath it, the thing that we see is that at the same point in the swing, P3, when the left arm's parallel with the ground on the way back, we see a situation, and you see the same with Justin Rose, where there's a little bit of a situation here where the right hip is higher than the left. So you've got some side bend in the pelvis, you've got some extension of the pelvis rather than staying flexed forward. And you can see the effect as I just take you back to the address position along with Grant White here from face on. And I've put the green line there down the sternum to the belt buckle, and you can see you've got what we call in stack and tilt circles some side bend at address. And all golfers have this. All golfers have a side bend away from the target, anywhere between, say, 5 and 15 degrees. Not a problem, depends, and it will vary from club to club, depending largely on where the ball's positioned, what you're doing with your weight location, etc. But everybody has a little bit of side bend to the right at setup. What we see with a better player is, and again the player who doesn't necessarily get stuck underneath it, is as the swing progresses, the side bend is changing, and that's allowing the player to stay centered. So you can see now that green line that was set just slightly to the right of the sternum at setup, the sternum now is slightly to the left of the belt buckle at the top. So the side bend has changed, whereas with yourself, the side bend has been maintained. And that's largely due, and this has a knock-on effect here with what the hips are doing also. As the side bend changes, the hip tilts change as well. The player moves off the ball less, and consequently, if a player moves off the ball like you've done and then slides the legs, which is fine, you should have some lateral movement in your downswing. You want that weight in the left side coming into the golf ball. The problem you've got is when you maintain the forward bend like you do, and you don't side bend to the left enough, so you've moved off the ball, the tendency now is to get the plane shifted to the right. I would imagine if you're on TrackMan or Flight Scope, you've got a HSP or a swing direction out there to the right, maybe 6, 8, maybe even 10 degrees, depending on what club you're using, rather than an online swing. You can see now as Grant shifts the weight forward, the plane is going to be more online, or the swing is going to be more online. It's not necessarily a plane thing. The lack of width at the top comes due to, really from there, the only way you can get the club to the top of the backswing is by lifting the arms. And really you just finish off with the arms arms separate from the rib cage. You can see it down the line as well. A little bit of a lack of turn. When you forward flex, when you maintain forward flexion, so when you stay in that forward bend and you don't get rid of it during the backswing like you saw with Grant, the only way you can get to the top and propel the butt of the club further is by lifting the arms. And now the first move down now is going to be a drive of the knees towards the ball. See the right knee over flexing in an attempt to get the club back on the inside. And unfortunately, when you start doing this, you start shifting the plane dramatically to the right. What we see with Justin is much less of a dramatic flexing of the right knee. Returns to its address flex before straightening through the hitting area. Never getting trapped underneath it, or certainly very rarely gets trapped underneath it. If anything, he appears, the footage in the golf that I've seen him play of late tends to just pull his bad shot. It's not a bad miss, bit of a pull. You can always feed that back in to a fairway if things aren't going to plan. So a lot of this is caused by what we see here from face on. And what I'm going to do now is bring this up on a bigger screen for you. My suggestions are going to be get the left shoulder at setup, get the feet flared out more, as we discussed, for the reasons we discussed earlier when we were chatting on Facebook. And once you've done that, what I'd like to see you do is get this left shoulder working down a little bit more. That will allow you to stabilise the axis of the swing and not drift off the ball quite as much, and get rid of this side bend to the right and turn it into a side bend to the left. I've got some still footage that I'll email across to you along with this online lesson to illustrate what I'm getting at with that from setup, and how the side bend is ever changing from setup to well after impact. You can see here now, plane shifted to the right as you come through. There's a flex forward as you try and bend that ball back or prevent it going too far to the right. As far as the drill between now and when you get a chance to work a little bit more on things, if you're playing and you want to work on something short term, go out to the range, straighten the right leg off completely, hit some shots focusing on moving the left shoulder down, and I very much doubt that you'll get trapped underneath it whilst working on that drill. Good luck with it, great hearing from you, hope things are well, and good luck with the upcoming season. See you soon, mate.